we have multi-CDN, we have multi-cloud. Multi-edge is the next one. What is holding us back? What needs to be done? And you already answered this a little bit, Sean. What needs to be done to make sure that we have multi-edge in a working mode? I mean, you mentioned multiple languages at edge, more standardization. Are there any other points you think need to be addressed?
The Terraform deployment, which is I think pretty standard across the board, multi-language support. I guess, you know, what's happening under the hood, you know, how the you know, whether it's edge workers or computed edge, how they're actually implementing some of the compute technology is kind of transparent to us. So I don't know if that would matter too much, but I guess it really also depends on what your application is. So like in the case of our multi-CDN strategy, we're able to build logic into either the client, the manifest itself, or DNS to basically load balance the CDNs. I don't know exactly how we would do that, or it's not a problem we've really solved yet for multi-edge deployments. So like if we have a service that's called, you know, before stream start or even midstream or what have you, how do you know which edge to go to? How do you know if one edge is performing better, more cost effectively, or, you know, is down altogether? That's probably a problem I think we're going to need to solve before we do these, you know, multi-edge deployments.
Monitoring and troubleshooting and training the logs. I think there has to be commonality around that. And then I want to say that because we don't operate that infrastructure, we in the sense that as a client, you are using someone else's infrastructure. So you would expect that infrastructure to be available to you. And if some node or some region is unavailable for capacity reasons, define capacity however you want to define it, then that should be temporarily unavailable to you. And I think if with those optics point of view, load and capacity, the more oblivious we are to it, probably seems like the better thing to do. But I'm sure there will always be edge cases. Like in our case, we do want to understand CDN's network capacity, so we can be a little bit more dynamic with respect to how we interact with the CDN, because our players are a little bit more intelligent. I'd imagine that some point down the road, I'd probably make a statement that we want to know how much of compute capacity you have as well too, or how much of storage capacity you have, like edge databases as well too. We are certainly not there yet, but maybe that might be one case wherein some more visibility into how that edge is operating, how much of headroom it has or not, that might become relevant as more and more of the edge starts to get used for these use cases.
So basically, if I go back to CDNs in general, they're always referred to as black boxes, right? We want to have a little bit more transparency on the black boxes on edge, as well, just to have a little bit more understanding, especially because there are more variables in edge than just with CDN. Typically, is capacity or storage, and that's it. But there are much more variables with edge in that regard.
Yeah, I think there is a lot of trust that has to go with that statement, that treat us as a black box, and invariably sometime in the future the customer is going to ask a lot of questions, and you have to open up things so that it's a mutual understanding is shared between the provider and the client, so that the better use of infrastructure can happen.
Yeah, managing the edge infrastructure, it's kind of a blessing and a curse in that regard. The visibility and just the fact that, you know, today we don't even have eyes on it. It's good and bad, because it's not like a lot of apps that we're deploying in our own Kubernetes infrastructure, right? Like we have full DevOps eyes on everything, on the infrastructure, right? The blessing is we don't need to worry about that. So like in the ETL sort of application I mentioned with these beacon posts, right? Like we know that our edge compute provider is just going to scale with load, and it works, and it hasn't broken yet, and that's great. But the day that it does break, the day that a PUP does go down, or these compute instances are overloaded, we're gonna want visibility. And so I think, you know, right now today, it's these edge platforms aren't like they're not open like running your own bare metal, running your own Kubernetes, but they're also they're a little bit too close. We have to find that even medium for how much visibility and control that we really want over that infrastructure. The few deployments we have today, I think it's just been a blessing that we don't have to worry about that stuff. It's one less thing for our DevOps to worry about. That can change in the future.
Yeah, because if your SSAI model running on the edge breaks down and monetization disappears, and that's not going to be a good day for both the client and the infrastructure provider.